stuff that I have completed. Is there any
Yeah,
way?
I know it's what's horrible about those hearings, right? Is like there's a big argument going on, and one side's gonna make it all good, and one side's gonna make it all bad, and that's not you, right? You're more than even everything that has been said on both sides, and I know that. And I just I'm not in charge of how legal hearings happen. That's kind of the problem with courts, right? Is like makes everyone pick a side and not see things, and kind of try to make things black and white, which are inherently more complicated than that. So I appreciate that, and that I'm Tammy. I'm so excited about that you have your own place, that you've been there and you're stable and you're working with people. Like that is important no matter what, right? Like that's so much better than being homeless and bouncing around, not knowing where you're gonna be that night. Like that's a stressful way of living, and that's not good for your mental stability, right? So I'm happy, regardless, and I recognize all the work you put in and all the things that you've tried to do. And I'm so happy that you found a place that you feel like you can settle and you could be there a long time. And I think that's what you communicated yesterday. And like I said, that's something for me to celebrate, right? Because I want that. You keep thinking you want that for your child. I want that for you, right? Like you grew up in my system too. I want you to feel that you know where you're putting your head down every night, and that's important regardless. I never want you to think that I don't think you've made tremendous strides because again, like that's not where you were a few months ago, right? You were you had gone to Colorado, you got to I don't know Tennessee, you kind of bounced through these places trying to find a place. And I think up there, and you're connected with again, you're connected with good professionals, but you're also connected with your old foster parent. Like, and this is the person who cares about you, and I know that. That's why he's saying this testimony. I adore this person. I want her to be successful, and and so do I. Right, like that's it's like what we're gonna do next is obviously give you up to the judge, but I don't want you to think that I'm blind to all the things that you've accomplished. And like I said, I am so happy for you that you have a place to put your head at night and care and reach out to those things. You sound better. You sound more engaged. I just got to believe it feels a little bit better. And like whether it does or not, because the kid's not with you, I want you to know I feel better knowing where you are every night.
Well, thank you. And the thing that, I want to be and have out there is the fact that I am doing so good. And I want that to go into, making the decision of where my son should go. Like, just because my son is doing good in foster care doesn't mean he should stay. That's not the point of foster care. It's supposed to be put in place so that the child is safe, so that the parent can get where they need to be able to safely parent. And I think I've successfully got to that point where I can, successfully parent my kid. My kid is protected. No one's living with me. He'll have his own bedroom. Everything is great. I don't know why, all this amazing things that I've accomplished can't go toward being like, hey, Tamby has done marvelous. I really think Tamby should be able to have Zach back and work into that. Even if it is slow, I totally get that. But to totally void what I've done, just because people say that I'm doing a good job doesn't mean it's going forth for my child to be able to work on getting him home. And I've worked my butt off, even by myself, to get where I'm at today with no help whatsoever. And my kids mean the world to me. I'm willing to do anything I have to do to get them home. So, I'm just wondering, like, why can't the judge know this? Like, why can't you let the judge know, like, hey, and he will make sure that you have a say. Anything you say, he is for it, as long as it's, maybe legal. If you say, I feel like Tamby has done marvelous, I think we should work on, transferring, making sure that she is in the right place to be able to take Zach. And if, working on bettering my relationship with my son and building so that we can get to a point where he can come home with me, not just being like, oh, well, we know she's doing an amazing job, but we're not going to really say anything to anybody else. And we're not going to make sure that she could work to get where she's at. I feel like it should be taken into consideration. And I thank you for, saying that you notice that I'm doing a good job, but what I really need is it to go to the appropriate people who has that final say, because technically that judge will do whatever you want him to do. If you say, hey, I feel like Tambi is...
You have so much faith in me, Tambi. It's flattery, but false. The judge says what Tim wants him to do. But like the judge, has all the information in front of him. He gets to decide, what's in the long term interest here, and that's what he gets to do. Or he can do those things. He can be like, hey, we're gonna try this trial home visit. He can make that kind of decision. He has placement authority of the child, so he gets to make those kinds of decisions. Your attorney gets to say, hey, here's all the things that are going well, and I think he's done a good job of that.
I know, but the only thing that CPS has acknowledged to the judge is all these horrible past things, and some of it isn't even really accurate because it's not really, it's coming from everybody else. It's not really coming from what I've experienced or what was happening, and the judge only knows those horrible things. Not once did one of the workers or your guys' lawyer tell the judge that I've been doing fabulous, or however you would like to word what you did. But not even once did the judge even hear the words that you have said to me.
Well, you guys can ask me to testify if you want, but I think this is where your attorney knows. The truth is, Tambi, it's complicated, right? Because this is where you're saying, hey, make me look good, like I said, it's not black and white. And that's not the truth about you and your history either. Your history is complicated, and you've had successes and you've had struggles, and those are important as well. And we don't know what the future's going to hold. The question is, what the judge wants to try, right? If he thinks it's in the best interest to try again, he can try again. The decision on where we are, was decided long before I got involved in the case, right? If, like you said, we filed for this hearing when your child was born, right? We said that no, their mental health has not significantly changed, with Tambi, since the termination of the last child. So that's the position, right? That was taken. It's like nothing has significantly changed since the termination of the last child. So the mental health, and I want you to realize where the mental health ends up being this kind of very crucial piece, right? Because that's kind of where CFS went. And I'm not saying that mental health can't be affected by all the other things we talked about doing, right? Education can help. Certainly stable housing can help. And like I said, in the last 2 months, I know you have achieved that, and that is a tremendous step forward. I don't know if that says that over the last year you've always had stable housing, but I do know in the last 2 months you have, and I think that's been a really, really good thing. I think you've got some good supports around you up there. But the other side of this, again, comes back to, has mental health significantly changed? This is the part where, I think one of the things that CFS keeps asking, and you probably do here in court, is a psychological evaluation or a mental health evaluation. And I think that's part of Sunburst. Your attorney has the mental health evaluation from Sunburst. He could file that if he thinks this speaks to your mental health being a drastically different situation than it was in any of those other reports, right?
But no matter what those psych evaluations say, it still should be something where I get given a chance to prove what I can do regardless of my disabilities and what I have, because my disabilities do not define me as a person. I should be able to prove my skill and what I'm able to do from all the stuff that I've learned from all the classes, all my experience. My kids aren't the only kids that I have raised. I have raised other people's children from newborn to like 2, 3 years old. I've raised other people's children. I raised my baby sister until she was 1, and I was in diapers, and I'm not saying that that's right.
It's interesting that you bring up a good point, Candy. The idea of I should have a chance to prove, and because again, it doesn't make sense why in this case you don't feel you've been given a chance to prove, and that's because at the beginning of this case, one of the ways that CFS can terminate is saying nothing has significantly changed since we gave her the last chance to prove. Right?
But I don't think
the previous termination hearing that we did work with you and did do a treatment plan, and after all those efforts, we still terminated on your previous child.
But here's the thing, though. I wasn't given proper chance my first time. My son was diagnosed with failure to thrive, but it wasn't my fault. The doctor knew that and twisted it and said that I was so disabled I could not understand the feeding schedule. That wasn't true. My son was sick. He was allergic to the formula. He was constipated. He wasn't eating. And the doctor knew this and still flipped the story, and no one was willing to listen to me. My son being sick and failing to thrive was not my fault. I took him to the doctor to get checked out. And
so like whether that was done right or wrong, I'm letting you know that was what the court decided, right? And it's based on that termination that they say, okay, if the situation is the same, then mom doesn't necessarily need a whole nother chance for every new child she has. That CFS can file and terminate out of the gate. I'm not telling you this because I'm arguing with that that's right or wrong, right? That's just the law under which this was done. You can say it's wrong that every child that a parent has, we should keep trying and trying again. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who would agree with that, right? I keep my own personal opinions to myself on what we should be doing, but I'm not saying that what you're saying no one would agree with. I think plenty of people would agree. Why wouldn't you try and try again? And if mom, if it doesn't work out on the second child, well, maybe it'll work out on the 9th child or the 10th child.
My first case should have been evaluated properly because it wasn't my fault why my son wasn't eating. I took him to the doctor to get checked out. No one cared. It got flipped on me instead of investigated properly. That's the issue. And because it wasn't investigated properly and everything was just thrown to the wind, it was very easy to lose my second kid without even being able to be given a chance to do everything properly and do things better. I didn't know my rights with my first kid.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of if it's done properly or not, that's really kind of the judge's decision, right? You got to make the decision. He determined it was proper. I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm just telling you what he said, right? But it was done properly. And which is beside the point. Because you know what I'm going to do, Tabby? I'm going to do whatever I can do, like, to help you and support you. I'm going to reach out to your mental health person. I'm going to see if we can get more information on your mental health. And if we can bring to the court saying, hey, mental health situation has changed, let me show you how it has changed, then I think that would help.
You would actually do that for me?
That's what I'm going to call her this afternoon.
Okay. Well, I really hope that it goes through.
Well, I mean, the question is, the other thing is, once you said it hasn't changed, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all giving, I can't make everything better, Candy. I can only put the information out there, as much information out as possible. But this is, I think, the crucial things that you've done in the last 2 months that we should put the information out there. Here's what's happened in the last 2 months, and here's what they say about how things are. And the judge can be like, okay, that's enough of a change that we're going to give it a chance. Or he can say, you know what, that's not enough of a change, and we're not going to give it a chance. And again, that's his decision, not mine. Because, no, it's not him just listening to me. There's plenty of times Larson doesn't listen to me. You go